Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Version 1, a podcast where creative people come to talk about their creative processes, imposter syndrome, inspiration, failures along the way, and much more. I'm your host, Waverly, and this week I am joined by Lorena Barbosa, who is an accomplished TV and film producer, media strategist, and creative visionary with over 12 years of experience at networks such as NBC News, Telemundo, CNN, and Al Jazeera. She is a Colombian immigrant who arrived in the U.S. at the age of 6, and she has built a career championing diversity and amplifying underrepresented voices across broadcast and digital platforms. As the founder of the Creative Power Agency, Laura inspires others to reclaim their creative potential, crafting narratives that foster inclusivity and illuminate the beauty of humanity. I'm really excited because I got to know Laura through my boyfriend John, which we will talk about at the end of the episode, and she is just so sweet. We talk a lot about being women in the TV industry, hustling through journalism school at Penn State, how her background being an immigrant from Colombia influenced her love of storytelling, how important her support system is to her mental health, and starting her own creative agency. So without further ado, here is Lorena Barbosa. Hi, Laura. How are you doing? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to do this podcast with you. It feels like I'm 30 and I've been doing this work in the media industry for so long that I'm finally at the other side of getting interviewed. I'm usually interviewing, so this is going to be a great dynamic.
Totally. Yeah, whenever I'm interviewed for things, which I guess isn't that often, but when I have been, it's always very strange and funny because as someone who also went to journalism school, I'm used to being the one with the questions, not being asked them. So I'm like, oh God, do I sound smart or dumb? Or you start overthinking.
For sure.
But awesome. Could we just start out with you introducing yourself to our audience?
Yeah, so my name is Laura Barbosa. I'm a TV and digital producer. I'm a journalist at heart first. I'm also a filmmaker and just a creative overall in any kind of field. I'm able to put things together for people and guide them through a great storytelling process.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been able to tell stories in so many different ways and through so many different lenses, which I'm very excited to be able to talk to you about. Did you always want to be a journalist even when you were younger?
My story is very interesting, and it's an immigration story, which is a topic and a niche that is very dear to my heart. So I moved from Colombia, the country of Colombia in South America, to the United States when I was 6 years old. And I actually moved to Allentown, PA. So very random for a girl from Bogota, Colombia to move to cold ass Allentown, Pennsylvania. But I really dove head into culture right when I was 6 and was watching Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, all these different platforms that we had as children in the United States growing up. And I realized quickly that I didn't look like Hannah Montana, and I didn't look like the other stars that we were watching at the time. And it really forged me into thinking harder as to why that was. So I quickly realized when I was about in third grade that journalism was probably going to be my career because I knew that I really wanted to create a place where I could see people like myself on TV and not feel discouraged. And I just naturally instinctively knew that it was TV journalism and media.
That's so cool that you knew what you wanted to do from so young. I knew I wanted to be a journalist as well from a young age, but at first I rejected the notion because both my parents come from a journalism background, and I was like, I don't want to write for a newspaper. Those stories are all so boring. But then I think as I got a little older, like maybe in middle school, I was like, wait, I actually really like this because I started writing for my middle school paper and high school as well. And yeah, I think we're both unique in that. And I wonder, because as a Chinese American woman, also growing up in upstate New York, which is pretty close to Pennsylvania, we had come from very similar backgrounds. And I never thought about it like that in terms of representation like you did. So that's a really cool perspective. I'm like, oh, I have to reflect on that. I wonder if I'm the same way.
I think so. I think it's American TV, American media was so forged into our way of life in the 2000s. Yeah, I moved to the United States in 2001. So '01 on, I was really enthralled with Americanism in media. And so I really feel we just had that natural inkling into wanting to participate. And it's so funny that you said that you participated in your middle school newspaper because I remember that when I was in fifth grade, I went to a Catholic school from kindergarten to 12th grade. So we didn't really have the same resources as other public school kids. But in fifth grade, I started my own school newspaper. And like it was when we were first taught how to do column on Word, like doing the different columns and making your own brochure. So I made my own newspaper with all of my friends in school, and we all wrote articles and I put it together. And then eventually we got banned. So the
Why?
like
Why'd you get
principal
banned?
and the principal like called us into the office and let us know that this wasn't something that was official from the school. So they really didn't want us like putting out any sort of creative articles about anything. And so I was a rebel in school because I also put on a lot of my friends to like risque young adult books that I would just find at the library when my parents would just dump me there while they were working after school. So yeah, I think I just had a bad rep and they knew that we probably should cut this. So Laura can't spread any other risque information.
Oh my God, that's so funny. What were your articles about in your paper? Was it
I
anything scandalous, like worth banning?
I can't even remember. I remember it was just like creative stuff. Everybody was like doing some fictional things, but I really can't. I just remember clearly the principal's office being like, this is not approved by us. This is not an official paper, and you guys can't do it anymore. My grow up story in Catholic school is hilarious because we were just really protected at all times. So not really have these bits of creativity, especially if it wasn't mandated by our teachers.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. That's so funny. Once it got banned, did that kind of in a way add fuel to your fire where you're like, you can't silence me, like rebelliousness in you, or were you discouraged when it got banned?
Yeah, no, I totally was completely fueled by that. And I just understood the type of educational system that my parents were participating, putting me into, and having me participate into this educational system, which is the Catholic school system. And it's mostly not more of the religious part. It was more of the protection and not being in a public school in a low income neighborhood, and that what would that entail for my future. So I understood that once I got to high school, I'd probably get to do whatever I wanted. But it didn't really stop us. We were a rebellious class because a year after, in sixth grade, Zanga came out. And this is like pre MySpace. This is like prime internet kids, and we got in a lot of trouble after that, after we all had our own Zanga pages. So I'll save that story for another time.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. That's really cool. Did you end up doing more journalism in high school through if you had a high school paper or high school TV?
I would do the morning announcements in school. This would be video, I believe, as well. It was like video and the like parlante. No sé cómo, I don't know how to say it in English, but like the speaker throughout the school. So we would do the video and the speaker. And I was part of that like journalism club, which put together the yearbook every year.
Oh, very cool. And so you knew you were going to major it in college then and then pursue it professionally at that point?
Yeah, I think it's just this natural instinct I had. I always knew I wanted to do that, especially practicing journalism, putting things together. I was always writing papers. English was something that really I loved. And even though it was so interesting because I came to the United States not knowing any English at all, but I learned it like within 3 months of being thrown into that like first grade class. And since that, I think I really, really got into loving words and reading. I was always a bookworm growing up and read so many books, checked out so many books at a time at the local library. So it was just kind of something that I knew I had a good sense for is the storytelling. Also in seventh grade, I won this like creative essay about what America means to me. And I won a trip to DC and went to, I think it was like my state senator at the time, and got that whole experience. I knew right away that's something that I was good at.
That's so cool. When you were going through journalism at school and college, I went to journalism school as well, and a couple other guests have, and we always, I have, how do I say this? I have so much appreciation for my J school experience, but it was also very difficult and in some ways a little traumatic. I'm curious, what was your experience like studying journalism in college?
I would say I don't think I studied it. I think I lived it because my program where I went to university wasn't a world-renowned J school kind of place. I knew going into the university that it was not top J school and that I'd really have to make the best of it. But it was still a fantastic institution. So I knew that there was definitely value for me there. But like when I recall my classes, it's very typical stuff that you would probably learn in journalism school in the 60s, in the 70s. I really didn't feel like it was completely modernized. It was a little slow. And what I noticed, it was just like my easy classes, because this is just stuff that really came easy to me. And my hard class were the different classes that you had to take to graduate. And I was like, oh man, I wish I could just do my journalism classes all day long because this was easy to me. But yeah, I honestly didn't feel like it was too much of a challenge. And what was challenging for me was getting involved in the clubs, which was like PSN TV, which was our local TV station club that ran its own news channel. And right in freshman year, I learned if I want to know how to do this for real, I'm just going to have to join the club. And the first thing they told us in the club was pick up the camera and figure it out, and no one's going to tell you. And that really was what happened. I had to pick up the camera, figure out how to carry a tripod, the microphone, and then how to edit. I think I got some support, but it wasn't really that much. My institutional experience in college was just learn yourself.
Looking back, now that you're several years out of college, how did those very early experiences affect your career later down the line?
I think that they affected me in a way that I knew I had to just get up and go for it. Having that sort of learning playground of do it yourself, I understood from freshman year that in order for me to get a top job at the top network right out of college, I would have to hustle all of those years in college. I couldn't sit back and not have an internship and graduate with no internship. So I actually started interning right in my freshman year, and I graduated with about 11 to 12 internships in my entire 4 years. And that really helped me get my foot into the door in these big networks, national networks, because they already knew me from interning all those years in school. And yeah, so I think that really definitely helped me because I knew that I had to be at the career fairs in the face of anybody I wanted to get in the door through. I needed to just say, hey, I'm here and this is me. And I know that I'm just some freshman, but you're going to see me for 4 years. And that's really what I did.
Wow, that's really cool. 11 or 12 internships over 4 years. That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
how did you fit that all in? Because there's only 4 summers in college. So, you had to have been interning during the semesters. How did that all work?
Yeah, so I interned a lot during the semesters. I also started interning actually in high school at a local NPR station. So that was my first one, and I just calculated the years of how long I've been technically in the industry, and including that first internship. It's 12 years. Yeah, I definitely juggled having one internship per semester on top of doing a summer. And this was like doing different internships at organizations in the university that I went to, which was Penn State University, State College, University Park. There's always different things going on. I interned a lot of different semesters for Big Ten Network, which is the big media network that broadcasts the sports games. So I really got my hand in a lot of things, as well as even local stations at University Park at Penn State that I interned at as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you. I'm sorry, I'm just like taking that all in because I'm like, I can't even imagine how busy you were.
No, I even interned as a social media marketer in 2015 when I went to Barcelona. So I even interned when I studied abroad.
Oh, that's so cool. I did a similar program at Mizzou. They had a study abroad internship program through the journalism school. So I was based in Brussels, Belgium, and I did an
Wow.
internship there for a semester. So that was super fun. So that's awesome.
Wow.
Were there
That
any, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said that's beautiful.
Did you have any sort of like setback or major challenge during those early college years?
Mm, yeah, you know what? I really think that it wasn't opportunities with outside organizations, like outside of university. I think I had setbacks inside my university and college experience with the opportunities that you do get inside your program. So one of them was in our last year at Penn State, we have a whole program. That's basically when you do your most heavy journalism classes and you participate in a student network as well, like a TV show. And you have this nightly news show that airs, and this is student run, and it's basically mostly the seniors. We had auditions to do anchor work, and I didn't get it. I didn't get any on air anchoring opportunity. And that really hurt my feelings because I felt like there was like a different sense of experience that the people who did receive that anchor role that I had. I definitely compared, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z, and this person hasn't done that. And why did they get the opportunity? I'll look at my tape back of my audition and I'm like, I did great. Why did not pan out? So I remember that kind of being that huge setback. And it really was pivotal in my career because I questioned it. I was like, I didn't get booked for being an anchor here. So like, how am I going to get my first job out of school? And our first job out of school was always taught to us that it was you're either going to go local news somewhere in the middle of America, and that's how you're going to work your way up to be on camera and all the jazz for a major network, and you're going to go up the market field, or you're just going to be a producer and you're never going to get on air. So that was something that was like really driven to me, and not being booked and casted as an anchor for that new show really hurt my optics. But I definitely did not let that get to me. And I kept hustling and kept really showing my value. And there's so much of that experience from that senior year that I realized like, wow, there was something there because my experience and everything that I had was completely amazing. And I should have been put on that stage, but I wasn't. And I have a lot of thoughts about why, but I'm going to let that rest there.
And how did you pick yourself back up after that happened? Because I think a lot of people face rejection early on and they let it fester and they internalize, oh, maybe I'm not good enough because this organization didn't pick me for their internship or to be an anchor on the show, etc. But I love that you were able to persevere and pull yourself out of that. So I'm curious, what were the sort of tools or mindset shifts that you had to make during that time that got you out of that?
When I think back to that time, I realized that I didn't have a choice but to keep going. I was already 4 years into the career. And I also realized that I was a fan of my own work. I watched my packages back all the time. I tweaked a lot of different things that I didn't like about what I was doing, all my on camera opportunities that I was incorporating into my packages. I was getting better and better all the time. And so I doubled down on my skill set, and I doubled down on recognizing that you have something here, and don't let these people in this room with this decision decide if you're valuable or if you're talented or not. Because I kind of had that sixth sense that I was like, nah, this is pretty good. I watch TV, I watch movies all my entire life, and you got something here. And not everybody can go out with a camera by herself, ask people questions, and go back and weave it together. So I think that was really what empowered me, where I was like, no, not a lot of people can do what you can do. So you can keep going. And you know what? Something else that I understood was that even though I had teachers telling me that you had to go a local reporter route in some random town in the middle of America, I realized, no, they're wrong, because I had already interned in the summers for NBC News, Telemundo, big networks in New York. And I recognized that there's a whole world out there besides this like 10-year plan in a local news route. So I'm just going to keep going for that, because I don't know what you're talking about. And I also recognize that maybe these people weren't helping me get to places of success because they had their own bias and their own likes and needs. And it just wasn't none of my business. So that's where I honed in and recognized, and that helped me persevere to keep going.
That's awesome that you had so much self-confidence at that age, because I definitely did not have that confidence. So that's really cool that you did. Do you think that comes from your upbringing, or it was just innate, or how did you get that self-assurance that not a lot of people have at 19 or 20 years old?
Yeah, I think it's honestly being an immigrant full through and through. Like, I migrated here at 6 years old. I didn't speak any English. I watched my parents work endless of jobs that did not tie up to their academic statue that they left Colombia with. And I also worked those jobs with them. And I've had that experience of kind of working myself up and seeing my parents also work themselves up from migrating and migrating their family. So that sort of confidence of making sure that in a room, your presence is being felt just because I put the sweat in. My family put the sweat in. I know English just as well as you are. I can make all your different accents. So, like, having this chameleon type of style and having this just heart that just wants to honestly do good in the world gave me this, oh no, I'm a great person and I'm going to show up in a space and you're going to know who I am because I'm just a naturally great person. I love you and I love everyone. So I'm going to make sure that you guys feel my presence. And I think that's what really helped me, just having the grit of the years of labor from being a pure immigrant. It really helped me show up.
That's really cool. I love what you said because, yeah, I think that immigrants and just people of color in general have unique challenges and struggles that people who have majority identities in whatever community they grow up in don't necessarily experience. And I think it gives you a kind of resilience and a confidence that maybe others don't have if they haven't experienced that.
Yes, beautiful. Exactly. The resilience is definitely the driver for that perseverance and that driver for that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your first job out of college?
My first job out of college, which was so funny that when you asked me like what was my setback, is like now they're all rushing back. I feel like podcasts are like mini psychology sessions where you're like, oh my God, I just remembered that time. It was so funny when I graduated college and I was going through such a hard time because, again, I was told for all these years that I had to become a local news reporter in middle of nowhere. And I was applying like crazy to these local reporter jobs in the middle of nowhere. When I was graduating, May was quickly coming around, and I was talking to different news stations in the middle of nowhere, and they were just offering me really horrible salaries, like $23,000 a year, $27,000 a year. And this is 2016. This is still horrible, like still super bad for right now, still super bad for 2016. And I just was like, no, like there's no way I can take that salary. And I don't want to work my way up and do this local. No, I'm not doing that. So I shifted gears and like halfway into the year, trying to see what else I could do. And I ended up out of school, just taking a break when I graduated and just took the summer off to reevaluate and see what I was going towards. And I actually ended up going to do a graduate internship. And in the graduate internship, I had two offers. So I took that summer off after I graduated to figure it out. And I had an offer to become a graduate intern for Good Morning America in New York. And I had an offer to go to CNN and do graduate internship over there. And this would be for the fall of 2016, so September to December. And I had a huge decision to make, and I took a long time to decide what I wanted to do. I somewhat regret a little bit the decision I made. However, I'm a big person where it's like you shouldn't regret stuff. Your experiences form who you are. So I ended up going with the CNN graduate internship opportunity. And so I moved to Atlanta by myself in my car, subletted somebody's room in their apartment, and did a graduate internship for CNN Special Projects Unit. It was really nice. I do wish that I could have done more. As an intern, sometimes you're limited. Other producers don't like you to come in and do a bunch of stories. And there's just a lot of jealousy and a lot of different workings around being an intern and showing up places and not trying to outperform the actual people who get paid a full salary. And that's something that really happened to me in my experiences. But it was beautiful. It was a hectic time, though, because this was when Trump first was campaigning, and then he got elected in November. So that was a really pivotal moment for CNN network, because this was the most attacked network by any person going into office. And then when he did get elected in November, CNN let all the graduate interns know, hey, we're going to do a hiring freeze because we don't know what's going to come our way. But it was okay because it pushed me into my next opportunity.
That's awesome that you had such a great experience. I feel like a lot of people have a lot of mixed experiences and feelings around their first job outside of college, because sometimes you end up doing the grunt work, but it sounds like you were able to really get into the field and get really cool firsthand experience. That's awesome.
I was logging a lot, of course. That also hurt my feelings. I feel like I graduated and did all these 4 years of all these amazing stories. I traveled to Greece my senior year of college and did a documentary on the refugee crisis. And that was just like cool stuff, man, and that I was doing in college. And then I'm over here in Atlanta logging, and I had producers getting mad at me because I had a typo in my log. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. At that time, I was also thinking, like, where's AI? Like, why can't something else transcribe it for us?
Totally.
I really made sure that my managers and anybody who was in charge of me, to let them know, hey, please don't bury me here. I came here to get experience. And honestly, talking about resilience, I was paid $7.50 at that internship. And you cannot afford a life. You can't pay rent. I'm an immigrant. My parents aren't helping me. So I had to work at a second job while I was interning out of school. So I would go to CNN from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then from 6 p.m. to midnight, I would be hostess at this like really fancy steakhouse in Atlanta. So I let my managers know like my situation. Hey, I'm out here working two jobs. Like you cannot just bury me in the logging. So we really worked together to me work second cam on other producers' local shoots, or I did a lot of articles for CNN as well for Impact Your World, which was their like humane impact side vision. And yeah, so I think I just letting them know like the situation that I was in, and also my natural kind of want to do help me get those different stories.
Yeah, wow, that is a crazy schedule. First of all, that just makes me angry. I got paid $7.50 an hour when I was a cashier at Wegmans in high school. So the fact that you were making the same amount, and I was like 16 at the time, it's the reality of the industry, unfortunately. I think my first job after college, I was an intern at the Wall Street Journal, and I got paid, I don't know what it was hourly, but I got a stipend of, I think, $800 a week, which in New York is like nothing. It's $2,400 a month. So yeah, that would add up to around, I can't do math, but like $20,000 to $30,000 a year in New York for 3 months. And so it was like probably around the same hourly, and I'm like, I'm at the Wall Street fucking Journal. It's not like some small town paper that nobody's ever heard of. No disrespect to those, but I'm like, one of the top newspapers in the entire world can't pay their interns more than minimum wage. Seriously. And it makes me angry, and I won't go on like a huge rant about it, but I think that a very correct criticism of the media industry is it is for people with very privileged backgrounds, because it's very hard to make it work if you don't have parental help, which it sounds like you were able to do. But at the same time, like, you shouldn't have to work two jobs. You should just be paid a living wage.
Yeah, I honestly, how much we're paid is disheartening. And I really do think that the people who are in this industry do it for a sole purpose. They don't do it for a monetary purpose. And that's something that a lot of people should know.
Yeah, absolutely. So after you left CNN, where did you go after that?
So after CNN, I recognized that I needed to get out of Atlanta. So I was loving Atlanta and it was beautiful. Anybody who is from Atlanta or travels to Atlanta knows that it's a family town. And so I recognized when Trump won and CNN was doing this hiring freeze that I needed to get out and go back to a place that, was going to cater to my career. And I also took the CNN job to show NBC that I should be there. I right away let the hiring managers in NBC know that I was at CNN, and right away they called me right around the time that my contract was ending with CNN, and they asked me to help them launch their weekend program for MSNBC in New York at Rockefeller.
That's awesome. Were you able to get on camera experience as well at that job, or were you just a producer behind the scenes?
I was just the producer behind the scenes, but I did make sure that I left my mark on the network and on the programming, because towards the end of that year, I was able to incorporate like my own segments where I really placed the human voice back into news. And they let me go out into Union Square Park weekly and interview people on potential subjects that we were going to have on that weekend. So think like China tariffs and all that stuff, because this is still 2017. This is big Trump stuff. So he was shaking up the White House, and I had a good sense of what that weekend program was going to look like. And I would go out to Union Square and with my camera, with my tripod, my everything myself. I've always been a one-man band and interviewed people and had their sound bites air along with the show as like a toss in and toss out of segments. So I did not get that much on camera work, but I definitely let my imprint on that network there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just the fact that they were able to trust you just going out alone with a camera is amazing. Even if your face or your presence wasn't in the story, it still was. And it's very cool that they let you work independently, because I don't think a lot of big TV networks, they sometimes don't do that. They'll send you with someone else. And also props on you for doing man on the street interviews, because those gave me the worst anxiety. I hate man on the street interviews. Yeah, just thinking about it like gives me hives. It was like it's my least favorite part of every single job or internship I've had.
Wow, that's so interesting to hear. I definitely, and I'm sorry that you felt that way, but it is really intimidating.
Yeah.
And you do feel like a fish just flailing around if not no one comes and says okay to get interviewed, and you're just hunting and fishing. So I know that it's definitely anxiety inducing. And I think I liked it because I recognize again that human aspect, that human voice is important to me in all of my work, and bringing it back to who the real people on the street are versus the president versus the chairperson versus anybody who's going to be like in their suit and tie ready for that sit down interview. I was like, no, these people don't know what they're talking about. I have to go to Union Square and ask random tourists or angry New Yorkers what they think about X, Y, and Z. And I really was painstakingly in Union Square Park, cold as shit, with my mittens and my glove, and shaking, asking people questions. And yeah, I think just smiling and like giving people like that, like cute, like bubbly eyes, please come talk to me, like really help them come and give me a little second of their time.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think I never really got over the social anxiety aspect of it. So props to you for being able to get over that social anxiety and for enjoying it. That's awesome. And I admire that because that is not a quality that I ever had, slash, will probably never have. It'll probably always scare me. So, how did you get from that job to Miami?
Yeah, it was honestly an interesting route, but I think everything lines up perfectly as it should be in the right time, even though in the moment you're like running around crazy, screaming, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? It really worked out. And so the year contract at MSNBC was turning over and it was coming along. And I recognized early on in living in New York, and I had interned in New York before, but like living in New York is super different. And I loved it. It was great, but I just couldn't keep up with the not sleeping and working crazy hours and I was working weekends. So it was just a lot of hustle. And I also recognized that energetically, I really didn't like being in the city too much. And I love connecting with nature. And I just felt like that was really off for me. And I recognized I really needed to leave. And so when I recognized this, I said, I have to search within NBC first to see what opportunities they would have for me to leave. They were launching an associate producer program where they were sending off these new associate producers to different bureaus from NBC around the United States. And I moved down to Miami to be an associate producer for the Miami Bureau. I was there from 2018 to 2020. It was one of the greatest experiences of my journalism career. I covered everything from hurricanes to tornadoes to gas explosions to protests. And so I was in charge of getting to the scene as fast as possible. And this meant having a go bag in my car at all times with a set of clothes, with my camera.
It sounds like you've had so many incredible but intense reporting experiences throughout your career. Is there one story in particular that has really affected you or has really stayed with you?
Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot. I think of all of them, but when I think about one that was really impactful and made me realize, holy shit, like our job is so hard, was when I was at NBC News. I was sent to be a field producer to Puerto Rico on this really random story of this man who was, I believe, in the Air Force, and they were on a plane and the engine blew out and the airplane crashed and he died. And I was in charge of finding his family and also interviewing his wife and kids about losing their husband and father. And this all happened in a 2-day span. Like, he passed away. We found her. She said, okay, come interview me. And then by the next morning, we were already there in her house. And I remember just like walking in and just like feeling the energy of mourning in the air. And I was just like, wow, I'm going to have to sit down and interview her now and ask her about losing her, like the love of her life. And she just left his kids. It was really hard. That was one of the biggest things where I left that trip. No, this isn't just fun and games. Like, I'm not just going on trips and getting expenses. No, this is some real life shit. And we have to be very careful, not only with our interview subjects, but with ourselves and our mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this career is really hard because you can be front row to a lot of trauma. And I think there's a lot of journalists that struggle with mental health or processing things that they've seen or were exposed to in the field. So, yeah, it's very interesting you said that.
And even when I think about Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas, that also impacted me a lot because I was the only field producer there for about 2 weeks until they sent other producers to relieve me. But that was really hard because I was meeting the victims of the hurricane. So the hurricane hit the Keys, so the side islands of the Bahamas. This is in 2019, I believe. And those were wiped away. Like when I say wiped away, like nothing was okay. Like anybody who was there was like, you survived by a miracle. And something that really impacted me there was like finding the victims when they first came. They got to the governor's office because in the Bahamas, it's just like a little cute Caribbean building is like the governor's office. So we all just camped out there. And I remember talking to a mom who lost like her sons and like her husband, and only her and her youngest son survived. And just her recounting to me like what it felt like really also impacted me into feeling like, wow, this is not normal stuff that I do. Anybody's not just talking to somebody who just incredibly got their life shaken up. And now I have to be the sense of calm, and I have the sense like of empathy, which is huge in this industry. You have to have empathy. And if you're not empathetic, then you're robotic, and you could tell that in your reporting. So I had to be that sense of calm and that sense of just love for her in that moment, even though like sometimes people say, oh, you're a journalist, create this barrier between you and your subject. And I break that barrier. I'm like, no, like I want to embrace somebody who has lost somebody and let them know I'm here for you. I'm not using you as clickbait. I'm using you to help tell your story. And that's what's really important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love what you said. You said it so beautifully, because I think that one of the most underrated and not talked about skills in journalism school is emotional intelligence. And I think that's such a key part of the job that I think more people should talk about in this industry. And not just for being empathetic and not robotic to your subjects, but also towards yourself, like checking in with yourself of, am I okay? Because you're witnessing a lot of traumatic events. You also have to take a step back and prioritize your own mental and emotional health. During those really intense stories, how have you taken a step back and prioritized your own self-care?
During those stories, how I check myself mentally is putting my phone to the side, looking at the sunset, looking at nature, and breathe first and foremost, and then self-interview and talk to myself about what I just experienced, how I'm also not taking part of that energy with me. Like, this is that, but you're this, and none of their guilt, none of their pain, nothing can come into you because you're your own personal bubble of safety. So I think just having these like meditation moments, and even going as far as to like practicing meditation and going to different physical modalities like yoga and a little walk, a cardio, different things that just will boost that serotonin level and bring me back to a sense of homeostasis. And I think number one is connecting with nature for me. I think about Hurricane Dorian, and it landed right around the time of my birthday. And I remember just being like, I can't wait to go back home so I could go to the beach. I can't wait to just go to the beach. And I think after that reporting, I just took a break and went to the beach and just recognized and realized how grateful, how lucky I am. Gratitude is a big one for me. Going into like these situations that I'm reporting on, not so grateful instances in people's life, to then me being like, all right, look, like this is who you have, all your 10 toes, you have your 10 fingers, you're healthy, and you got to keep going, but just take your time and do what makes you happy. And one of those things for me is like being in the beach, going to the pool, doing those things.
That's awesome. I want to switch gears a little bit to talk about, what does your creative process look like?
I guess in what sense? Because my creative process spans many different modalities, like journalism, like media, like video, article. I also paint, I make clothes,
Oh my God,
which
you do so much. Let's start with how you approach a story, just because we're on your journalism career at the moment.
okay, perfect. When it comes to working on a story, I think I would say first and foremost, it'll come to me. That's just something that happens. It's just like I can't. A lot of times people ask me, hey, how did you find this person? And how could you tell their story? And how did you find them? And I really cannot remember. I'm just like, we just connected somehow, or Usually I'm very talkative, I'm very personable. So a lot of times when I'm shooting one story, I'm talking to the people and then they tell me about somebody else. And then I'll actually follow up. And in that funneling of this person's this person and that person's that person, I'll just fall upon that subject. But the creative process like just really works with just finding the individual or finding the person that I'll be doing the interview with or the event or the experience. Just analyze it from a what's the story of this? What is the actual meat and bones and what's interesting about this? And then I'll go into prepping the individual for the interview or prepping the individual for how I want to put together the story and then shooting it. Shooting the story is really either I'm shooting it myself or I'm working with the camera operator, a director. I usually direct also my own shoots. So my camera operator will be like reliant on me being like, shoot this way, shoot that way. And I already have a clear picture of how I want things to look. But mostly it's that intuitive sixth sense of I'll probably get to an event, I'll be assigned a movie premiere, or I'll be assigned a launch of a celebrity's brand, and I'll come in and just already have in my vision, shoot this B-roll because I'm going to need this B-roll to cover up this. Hey, when I interview this person, make it look this way. And then I'm going to make sure that I ask intuitive questions with the person. And then, yeah, when I'm editing, I pray to God I have all my elements.
Yeah, totally. That's really cool that you rely on a gut feeling because I relate where I think I'm pretty good at seeing like the flow of a story of, oh, I could see if it's going this direction, this will be the beginning, and then I'll hit this beat and then that beat, and then this is how it will conclude if things go how they do in my head, which sometimes is the case, sometimes not. But yeah, I'm just curious, do you think you were born with that intuition or is that something you learned?
I definitely think I was born with it because it pans out that my entire life I've been gravitated towards this medium. There's a picture of me when I used to live in Colombia with a microphone and like a boombox. So I used to have a tape recorder boombox when I lived in Colombia before moving to the United States. And I would literally be there recording myself talking and talking about whatever and saying little stories. And so, come on, you know what I mean? If I'm doing that from back then to even now is like just tapping into myself and tapping into like my third eye or my vision, this kind of like invisible mental vision of what this is supposed to look like is I just always rely on that. And maybe even sometimes like I'll have to be prepped in regards to the story. Like it's an intense celebrity that wants everything like pre-planned and I have to send their team exactly what we're going to do. And I'll probably think about it then and prep it then. But most of the times I'll come in and have an idea, but I'll let the environment guide me.
That's awesome. Have you ever faced imposter syndrome?
Oh my gosh, all the time. Yeah, all the time. This industry is like key imposter syndrome. Like I think everything that we do is based on visual aesthetics, and the visual aesthetics can also have you in a place where you're doubting yourself of, is this look good enough? Did I do this the best way? Or a lot of times it's like I didn't believe people about how competitive this industry was. I was like, oh no, I'm telling you, I'm like super naive. I'm very like open-hearted. So I'm like, no one's gonna do that to me. And then like clearly realize, nah, like this is a cutthroat fucking place. This is like dog eat dog world. If you're not on top of your shit, like somebody's gonna take that opportunity and mop you with it. And I realized a lot of times that like a lot of opportunities that I didn't go towards or I didn't knock on the doors that I should have is based off of imposter syndrome.
How do you overcome imposter syndrome in the moments where it pops up? Like, I know it's like an evolving thing and maybe it will never go away or maybe it'll become less loud, but in those moments where you are feeling it, what makes you feel better?
I definitely think having a strong support system of another human, like a human soundboard, another person to be like, Oh my God, I just had the fucking craziest day today. I'm really thinking about quitting. Like, I just don't think that this is what I'm doing is good enough. And I've always felt like the only person to get me out of that rat race in my mind of not getting out of that imposter syndrome has been like my support system, whether it's like my loved ones, my partners, my best friends since I was like 10, my parents, even though my parents still don't really understand what I do, and like maybe my brothers from time to time, or even other coworkers, people who like you confide in to let them know like how you're feeling. It's really helped me. But in terms of sense of self, like what have I done in terms of imposter syndrome is again, ask myself, like, what do I really want? Because sometimes even the imposter syndrome comes into situations that maybe weren't really for you. Like I'm working myself up over not being able to do X, Y, and Z, or why didn't I get that opportunity and why that person did get that opportunity. But when I do get out of that and I see that, hey, that person did end up getting that opportunity that I was having imposter syndrome about, I'll see the situation and I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't want it after all. Maybe it wasn't for me after all. And I rely on having that flow with myself of maybe you did not want it after all.
Yeah, absolutely. And having a great support system is incredible. I try to talk to people that don't work in journalism because it's such an outside perspective and it gets you out of your bubble. Or another example is I have two dogs, and whenever I'm really stressed or something happens, like I was laid off from my job, and a friend said this to me when I was laid off. At the time, I only had one dog, and her name is Tati. And my friend was like, go take Tati for a walk. She does not know what insert company name is, the company that laid me off. She has no idea what that company is. She has no idea how much money you make, or she doesn't care what you do. Like, she cares that you're her mom and you take her outside. And so it's like good to get out of your head during those moments. So yeah, I think having a great support system is incredible. It makes all the difference.
For real, especially in this place where it's like media, what are we doing? We're constantly putting things out there. We are producing whatever's in our mind and making sure that it's seen by somebody. We're literally taking, producing, taking, producing. And so that's an energy grab. That's a lot. And like being able to have people to ground you, to get you out of that never ending, like, swirl of, oh, I gotta do, and then, oh, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing enough. Like you really need people to like help you get out of that. And then if you catch yourself, because that's really important to catch yourself when you're doing that, having that self-actualization and being able to, hey, catch yourself when you're getting out of hand with your own head is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk a bit about how you take a creative approach to storytelling in a journalistic way, because it's different than, of course, if you were writing a screenplay and the world is your oyster, or any other sort of like creative writing or writing fiction. Like, you are constrained to telling the most accurate story of what is happening and staying true to the facts and staying balanced and fair and all of that. But also, you don't want it to be boring. You want to have those creative storytelling elements to it. You just don't have free reign to make stuff up. So I guess, how do you balance adding a lot of creativity to your stories, but also not going too far off where it becomes an inaccurate depiction of what is happening?
Yeah, creatively, I think that like tapping into the visual aspect of the story is how I maybe do it creatively. I'll really rely on the assets that I have for it, like the B-roll that I'm shooting, making sure that it's always to a beautiful cinematic aesthetic and the storytelling like goes well with this cinema experience that I'm giving you in this 2 minute 30 to 3 minute max time. And this is the most time with my latest show that I've had ever on TV. I'm usually like been like 2 minutes or less, but now I have had the free creative reign of getting that beautiful 2 minute 30, 3 minute 30 max time. But I want to share with you really quickly because like it's coming to me about this creative storytelling, and it's my latest makeover series that I've had on the network. So makeover series is like very popular. People go in and get the glam squad and get made up. And I gave a twist to that in this network with Telemundo, and I have been for the past 3 years giving amazing, remarkable women makeovers and really helping them see themselves beautiful again and believe themselves again. It's a whole work. But recently, I did a whole creative twist on the makeovers and extended the series to be more than just one segment. Now it's 2 segments. And how I creatively tackled that is I had to create different scenes to be able to extend it. Our show on Telemundo is so popular that it won not only one time slot, but now we have 2 hours. I had this free range of we need to do something to fill these 2 hours. So I was like, all right, we're going to extend this makeover series and we're going to elaborate this woman's story by putting them in a car and in the car interviewing them on the way to the salon. So that's something that like I creatively did to make the story even better and keep it still journalistic because it's not a lie. This person really spilled out their guts and told us all about their life and cried in the car on the way to the salon. So that's like an example of something that I thought, how can we do this outside the box and keep the story true to itself?
That's so cool you were able to do that. This kind of leads into my next question because before you had mentioned so many other cool, crazy, creative things that you do, like making your own clothes or developing TV shows or doing video, or what else did you say? You said so many things.
Basic,
And
yeah, all right.
you did, first of all, can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I had no idea that you did all of those things. So that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's so interesting because creativity to me was something that wasn't really in my forefront of a word in my mind. It's not like I'm a creative. I always thought like I'm a journalist first. And this was like college, post college. But in the recent years, creativity has been a word that's very important to me because I recognize that I'm not only a creative in this box of media, which is like audio visuals, right? I recognize that there's so many different areas in my life where I was creative and I didn't like actually apply it in terms of telling the world like, hey, like there's these other creative things that I do. But yeah, I started my own agency called the Creative Power Agency. And what I've been doing with this agency for the past couple of years is advising people on different ways that their either business venture or their organization or like brand, how they can be creative and tap into that creative power and broadcast that creativity. And also remind people that everyone's creative. Not only am I a creative, but you're a creative through and through, and anybody listen to this is a creative, even though you may think, I don't know how to draw or I don't know how to paint. We are humans is to be a creative. We're constantly waking up every day and creating things, whether it's in your job, whether it's you're creatively driving your car, you're just doing so many things that are creativity. So tapping into that kind of everyone's a creative person, I have flourished into making a lot of paintings. I'm an abstract painter. I started painting in 2018, and this just started out of, I don't know, I had a vision and I'm like, I need to paint this way. And I was going through boy drama in New York and I was like, I'm just gonna let out all my hurt and pain and frustration on the painting. I found this style that I do that you can see a little bit behind me. Like these are some of my works here. And as well with clothing, there was a time in like 2020 where I was dyeing, like doing a lot of bleaching on clothing, as well as like embroidery and just like adding a lot of different sewing by hand. And so there's a lot of different aspects there. And just creatively in fashion as well. I'm a huge fashion lover. I like barely repeat an outfit twice. I swear, like I don't repeat outfits. Like I always find something to switch around. I repeat like gym clothes, of course, because it's the sets, right? Like you can't really go around too much in the gym sets, but creatively in fashion is something that I'm super passionate about. And that was actually something that when I graduated, I had to make a decision if I was going to go into the fashion industry or if I was going to stay in journalism, because I did the creative directing and styling for our fashion magazine at Penn State as well. So I was like on top of interning on all this stuff in Penn State at like journalism, I also did like fashion internships.
That's so cool. Wow, you do so much. I like had no idea. That's amazing. What do you think you get out of each medium? Because all of these things are very different, right? So what do you think each one gives you that the others don't?
What I could tell you from the first end is money, right? Because like video and like my career gives me money to keep the lights on right now. But besides that, like what they give me or what I get from doing each medium, I think that each medium of creativity gives me the it factor, the cool factor of seeing something physical that came from my mind. That's what I love about it is like I love feeling that I had this vision for this super cool interview with this awesome artist, and I'm going to take him vinyl shopping because his new song is about cassettes, and I'm just going to go retro with it. And then boom, I do it, I shoot it, I put it together, and now it's on air and I can go and see it anytime I want. And like now it's a product. Now I see like it came from here and I see it. My paintings as well, like I'm just there with the vibe, with the music, and I'm like starting to understand, hey, I wanted to go this way, and then boom, it's done. And I'm like, wow, it was in my mind and now it's here. Making things come to life, like that magic aspect to it, I love.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, it's like tapping into your intuition and making it into concrete form in front of you.
Yes, exactly that.
Looking back on your career, what role has failure played for you?
Failure has played the role of a wake-up call and a motivator. I think humbling and having that sense of rug pulled under you feeling has helped become a motivator. So it's like a trifecta effect. Wake up call, oh shit, this is a failure. You fucked up. Now, what are you going to do about it? And then I think it's allowed me to be a fuel for that next decision or that next lesson, or in the opportunity that the same type of failure is trying to sneak up again. I'll know, no, you learned this already before. You fucked up before. You already had that failure once. What did you learn in that time? So I've been able to tap back into my failures or tap back into the moments of like when I thought I was going to lose it all or whatever. And is that no, like you actually learned how to become a better person. You grew from that moment, and the growth I always take with me. And it's really honestly helped me become such a better person, even like in responding and that emotional intelligence that you were talking about. Like when moments of times that like maybe some manager like got snippy with me and got rude and maybe like somewhat toxic and abusive in a workplace environment, and how did I carry myself in those moments when I did fail to maybe keep my cool or not be abused in a workplace and just like naturally defending myself? How can I like take that moment and if it's happening again, what can I do better? And I feel like I've been able to do that. I've been able to go back into my younger self and be like, oh yeah, that fuck up. I remember that fuck up. I remember that feeling. Don't do that again. And it's helped me.
Yeah, absolutely. And how would you define success for yourself at this point in your life?
Well, that's a big one. That's when the imposter syndrome comes in and like you're like, I'm not doing enough. And man, like why do people who are in media like think that we're just not successful? And I'll sign myself up to that one because I swear to you every day I ask myself that. I think success to me right now looks like freedom, in terms of freedom to have a say in your own daily schedule, have the freedom in your own creative outputs, have the freedom of being able to be appreciated and valued economically in your efforts. So that's what success means to me. And also, yeah, just definitely having that freedom, that peace. Success to me is peace.
I love that. That's beautiful. All right, are you ready to move into the lightning round?
Yes, we have a lightning
Yes.
round.
Okay, do you have a lesson or a message that you want to share with the listeners?
Yes, I guess I would say, yeah, don't forget you're human. Don't forget your sadness. Don't forget your joy. Don't forget all those emotions that us humans have. And then carry yourself with that, with everything you do. So carry yourself with that sort of empathy and love in your heart and forgiveness, as well as just being light. Just be light. We get nowhere with being hard on ourselves. We get nowhere with going through life with a sort of like grunt. And I think just move light.
What is one thing you wish you knew when you were first starting out?
One thing I wish I knew when I was first starting out is the economic availability of the industry. And when that is like how much you get paid and the thresholds of payment, how really it's a completely undervalued career.
And could you give our listeners a recommendation? It could be for anything, a book, a podcast, a film, a tool, or a resource, anything you want to recommend.
I think I would recommend meditation, and I would also recommend sound healing through sound bowls and frequencies. I think that I would recommend people to like go on YouTube and search like relaxing sound bowls or like healing frequencies, because and just put them in your ears or listen to it on your TV and just sit there for a second and just get that silence and get that meditation going. I think it's one of the biggest modalities that is underlooked. And I also lack to do it often. But as a creative, our minds are just going on all the time. They never stop. Ideas come in all the time. I never stop with the ideas. I feel like idea all the time. And I think we need a sense of charge. We need a sense of like balance, and that go also needs a calm. So find your calm and try some meditations.
Oh my God, I 100% agree, but I am one of those people that's always, yeah, everyone should do meditation. It's so good for you. And I never fucking meditate. So I'm a hypocrite, is what I'm saying. But yes, I totally agree with you. All right, Laura, where can people find you and check out all your amazing work?
Yeah, so people can find me on my Instagram. This is a good way to like tap in with my personal side, and I'll always share like different works on there. But you can go on my Instagram. It's Laura, Laurenna. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message there, Laura Barbosa or Laura Lorena Barbosa, because there's also a painter. Her name is Laura Barbosa. So I was like, I got to change my SEO. So put my middle name in there, Laura Lorena Barbosa. And yeah, you can also just Google me, Laura Lorena Barbosa journalist, and all my like personal portfolio websites will pop up for you there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. You shared so many good insights and I think so many great pieces of advice for our listeners. So thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you're having this space for creatives and sharing this. It's a beautiful work, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the episodes.
Yay, thank you. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Laura. I am joined today by John.
Hello.
And this week's outro is going to be a little different because we are recording this in advance because I am in Palm Springs and LA and I get back late Monday night and the episode comes out on Tuesday. So we're just recording it the week before. So it'll be a little different, but it'll still be fun. And I'm super excited because I'm doing a travel writing program and we'll be taken around doing a lot of different activities that are planned by the tourism board of Palm Springs. And then I'm spending the weekend in LA with my best friend from college. And John, what do you have planned for this week?
Well, this week it's going to be kind of a quieter week at the beginning of the week because my baby girl is leaving tomorrow morning. So I'll have like 1 or 2 days solo. Then my friend Vinny's coming back for the rest of the week. But I think it'll just be kind of working and taking care of the dogs.
Yeah, for sure. Vinny was on last week's episode because we recorded with him yesterday. And yeah, he was great, obviously. And I hope that whoever's listening to this in like real time, which would be next Tuesday, hopefully we had a wonderful week and we'll definitely recap and talk about all the things that we did in next week's episode. And same thing for the Artist Way check-in because I'll be gone. So I haven't decided if I'm just going to take a week off or if I'll read the chapter tonight and maybe try to do some exercises in between some of the activities or at night. So I don't know. I guess we'll see next week. So yeah, a little bit of a shorter outro this week. But actually, do you want to talk about how you know Laura? Because this is Laura's episode.
So Laura's my homie. I can't remember how, but she found me on like a Penn State Tumblr because I ran a Penn State Tumblr, and she was just like an incoming freshman. I think I was a freshman at the time, so I think she was a year below me, or she might be the same year as me. I can't remember.
In the episode, she mentions that she's 30, so she's 1 year older than me.
Okay.
And we were 3 years apart in school, so maybe she's 2 years below you?
But
anyway,
so she followed me, and then she was at a party at my frat house, and she recognized me from Tumblr.
That's a crazy way to meet somebody.
And then I think we became Facebook friends, and honestly, like we didn't really talk that much in college. And then during the pandemic, I found out like, oh, she works at NBC also. And then like,
and at the time you were working for NBC.
Yeah. And so I was like, yo, and then we just like reconnected and we were homies, but I feel like we've hung out. Like, I feel like we're closer because like we talk and like we're kind of in the same headspace where like about creativity and stuff. But we've only hung out like 5 times, like max.
Yeah, I feel like she's one of those people that even though you haven't met her more than a few times, and by the way, I think I've met her once in person.
You met her once.
Or twice?
Yeah,
No, once in person. But because she's so active on social, like she'll respond to stories and, you know, DMs.
She's just a community person. I
mean, she's so outgoing and kind, so it feels like we've known each other a lot longer or on a deeper level than we actually on paper do, because she's great.
Yeah, I guess to take that all the way back to us meeting on Tumblr, then becoming like online friends into real friends, you know? It's really reflective of now the way social media is. It's just like you can get to know someone super fast based on like people just sharing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, she is just a ball of sunshine, the most positive, outgoing energy, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed our episode this week.
Yeah, she's inspiring. She makes me want to manifest more. I haven't listened to this episode yet because I'm 2 weeks in the past, but I can't wait to hear you speak, Laura.
Absolutely. All right. Do we want to leave people with a quote or a resource this week to think about?
Here's one I have. I'm sorry, I'm thinking off the dome, but not being good at something is the first step towards being good at something. Is something that is from Adventure Time. Finn says it to Jake or something. But anytime anyone's bad at anything, that's what I always say. It's just like, it's the first step is not being good.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of goes well with my quote that I wrote down, which is, believe you can and you're halfway there. Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh, that's a good quote.
Yeah, I liked that one. I had a random rediscovery recently that I also want to shout out. So if you're in New York City, you can, if you have a library card, get free admission to a lot of museums through Culture Pass. Do you know about this?
I always
forget about it.
I always knew people who'd ask if I wanted to go to museums, and then ask if I had a library card, or people who'd lend me their library card if they found out I was going to a museum. And so that's how I discovered, was like not through any marketing for it, I guess. It's like it was a person-to-person information. Like you're sharing it right now, but not a lot of people know this.
The reason why I rediscovered it is because I did know about it, but I honestly just forgot about it. But this morning we were looking at possibly going to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, and we ended up just going to Prospect Park so we could take our dogs because the Botanical Gardens are not dog friendly. But I was looking on the website to see how much tickets were, and it said free with Culture Pass. And so then I was like, oh my God, I forgot about this program. So then I went on to see if I could get just free tickets for us for the day, but they ended up being sold out. And then I was looking into it and I was like, wait, why have I never taken advantage of Culture Pass? So if you're in New York City, you can go on and reserve free tickets to a bunch of different museums. And I had this idea of like, whoa, this is a great place to start if I don't know what to do for my artist date that week. Just go on, see what museums are available for that day or that week to get free passes and just go. And so I was thinking I was probably not the only one who either doesn't know about this program or just forgot about it. So if you're in New York City, I'm sure other cities have a similar program. Yeah, it's free because you just sign up for a library card, which is free. And then you could do it through the New York Public Library, the Queens Public Library, and the Brooklyn Public Library. But the museums are all over. There's some museums in the Bronx and Staten Island. They're all over.
And I always knew that the Met, like you can get in free with a library card. But also $20 was the suggested donation. And it was free because it's...
I think you have to show that you have a New York City address for the Met specifically. Like it on your ID. And then you could pay what you want. But then tourists have to pay like $25 or something. I've
only ever been to the Met once. And it was in like 2012. I had a day in New York because I had a job interview that I didn't get. But I remember I went in for free because that was before they enacted that.
And quick story, we were supposed to go to the Met that one day, remember?
Yeah.
Which would have been your second time going to the Met. I didn't even realize that you've only been to the Met once. That's crazy.
No one ever wants to go.
I'll go with you.
I want to go to a drawing at the Met Day because...
That sounds really cool.
And it's like a public forum for me to shine.
Yeah. No, can I tell the story really quick of when we were supposed to go to the Met?
Enlighten us.
So that was in 2021 or 2022. It was before we started dating.
I think that it was
probably
2022.
Winter of 2022. It was probably in like January or February, let's say, of 2022. We were supposed to go to the Met. It was you, me, Julian, and Imbal, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe one or two other people, or that might have been it.
Well, there was like a group going with a girl from our floor. She invited us, Julia.
She was there? Oh, we were meeting them there.
Yeah, there was like an event that they were hosting.
Yeah, we were meeting them there, but we never made it because we took the subway all the way from Bushwick to the Upper East Side, and we're getting off the subway, and then I realized I don't have my phone. Also, for context, we had just taken shrooms, and the shrooms were like hitting us because we wanted the shrooms to hit as we were like getting to the Met, right? And
I've never done drugs in my life.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And so we're on shrooms, right? The shrooms are starting to hit. I get off the subway. I realize that my phone is gone. And I'm like, shit, what do we do? And we end up using Find My iPhone. Yeah. Wait, we must have been dating then because you had my location, and I don't think you had my location.
No, I had your location prior because you're a woman living with me. You would also call me whenever you were coming back late at night from like the train. Like you'd share your location with me, and you would like I was just like again the protective person just so you didn't feel alone on the walks.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't think we were dating.
Because you just knew I'd be up if you came home.
True.
It's like constant.
So you had my location, and we could see my phone moving uptown. So I'm like, did I drop it on the train or something like that? I still don't know how exactly I lost my phone, but we had the location. We kept calling it, and then someone finally picks up and says, "Okay, we have your phone at 125th Street. Come and get it." And it was this unhoused person that we met on the corner by the Whole Foods up there. Yeah. And I think you gave this person like $40 in cash, and I Venmoed you back. And then I got my phone back, but they fucking took off the screen protector, which makes me think they were trying to just sell my phone and like flip it for a couple bucks. And then they were like not getting any bites, and then just were like, okay, well, I'll give this girl her phone back. Yeah. And I remember freaking out because I'm also not in the most sober of headspace.
Yeah, and someone had your phone. You don't know if you have Apple Pay and stuff. You're like, there's a whole bunch of paranoia around like, my phone's missing. Somebody has it, and they're extorting us.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the whole adventure was probably like an hour. And then we went to your friend Stacy's, who lived in the Upper East Side, because at that point we were all stressed out. And if you've ever done shrooms before, you know that you don't want to be stressed out going through that situation on shrooms.
And I can't remember how Stacy got roped into
I think
helping.
because we were all like freaked out and high energy, and we were all in Harlem at that point, and then we kind of ditched the idea of going back to the Met because it was just such a strain on our energy. And you were like, you know what, I'm gonna call Stacy, see if she's home, because she has a really cozy apartment not too far away. And then she was home, and then we Ubered to Stacy's apartment, and then we ended up drawing there because we were supposed to be drawing at the Met at some event, and then we just ended up drawing there. And I made a little booklet. Do you remember the booklet I drew about the adventure?
Yeah, it's somewhere in this house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the story of how we were supposed to go to the Met a couple years ago, and that would have been your second time. But R.I.P. We'll have to make it up because I didn't realize you hadn't been in a while.
No rush. It's been like 12 years now. But it is somewhere I want to explore more. I was going to say this week you're going to Palm Springs, and that phone thief story made me think of, hey, if you're, oh, this is 2 weeks in the future, Coachella, I hope you didn't get your phone stolen, guys, because like that's like the phone stealing Olympics.
Oh yeah, John got his phone stolen at Coachella, and I also used your location to track your phone. Your phone ended up in some warehouse in the
Los
desert.
Gatos, California.
You still remember it?
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, like, when that woman you said had no bites, I'm like, they're at Coachella, you'll see people get like busted and their backpack opens and there's like 70 phones because they're just like, this is their Christmas.
Yeah, pickpocketer Olympics.
But they just drop it off at a warehouse, and like, I don't know how
there's probably a whole tiered system. Like, you have the people on the ground who actually get the product, and then you have people in that warehouse or something, like taking the phones apart or selling them for parts or keeping them together and selling and like wiping them and selling the phones. I don't know how it works, but
my pettiness, and it's weird because I know it's a safety issue, it took me a while to report it as lost, because the moment you do report it as a loss, like the phone deletes itself and it's basically a free phone for someone, right? Like, it's easiest to hack with the Apple ID removed.
Yeah, because you're wiping the phone and you kind of are doing the work for them, because they're like, oh great, now I have a blank phone and I can go and sell that phone as a used iPhone or whatever.
Yeah, but
anyway, so those are the stories of how we lost our phones. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me, John.
Thank you for having me.
Here are 3 ways that you can support the show for free. You can follow the show on Instagram at Version1 Podcast and subscribe to our Substack, version1podcast.substack.com, and links for those are in the show notes. And you can also find me on buymeacoffee.com/Waverly Colville. Number 2, you can leave a review on whatever app you're listening to this on and rate us 5 stars. And number 3, you can send this episode to a friend. New episode every Tuesday. John, thanks so much. We'll be back to our regular programming next week. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you.